thousand. Let me see.
Oh, oh, your business account.
Yeah, yeah, it's my business account. I get a lot. I get like 3 or 4 a day usually. 7,170. Damn. There we go. Okay. Taboo talk with.
Ooh, see, I love.
Does it take a bit to? Um. Oh, there we go. The quality gets better as it's loading. I got the link already, by the way, so because I'm on your page. All right, so I'm just gonna
Oh, cool.
share.
You can do a pop out chat. That's cool.
You can?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I see it. Ooh, nice. There you go. I was gonna say if I could do that. This way I can follow it on the side. This is so helpful, man, when um multiple screens and stuff like that, and you're doing a few things. This is pretty nice. All right, who are you sharing it with? So I know who.
I'm gonna share it with. Actually, let me get the link. I'm gonna actually just go and spam a bunch of people.
I only shared it with my brother. I don't know if I should share it online yet. If I share it on Facebook, I mean they'll have to leave Facebook to see it. Why does your video on YouTube keeps getting blurry?
Do you have it HD 1080 60?
Oh no, it's at 144. Why? Oh, there we go. Why was it at 144? I don't know.
Do.
All right,
Oh, I'm
so
sending.
caffeine. Do you use caffeine at all?
Do I use
That
caffeine? So when I was working, I was drinking caffeine every single day.
yeah.
I
No. Caffeine, the streaming.
No, I don't know what that is.
You use condoms. Um, oh, you don't? It's
Fuck.
it's it's pretty big. There's another one too. There's Twitch, and what's the competitor to Twitch other than YouTube and Facebook?
Mixer.
Mixer, and then there's caffeine. Um, I thought it was big, but maybe it's like a niche or something. Hold on, caffeine. Because I know a few people from Twitch left there and joined caffeine, and they're getting paid a lot of money. Um, I don't even know the website for it yet because it's not even loading. Hold on. Caffeine
I
stream.
can send my brother. Did you send your brother it?
Oh, caffeine.tv. Yeah, I sent it to him, but he hasn't seen it yet. He might be playing video games. Yeah, it's caffeine.tv. And it's everything: talk shows, video games. There's a lot of stars on there. Drake is on there. You can entertainment, trending, video games. It's not as, I mean, there's stuff that's cool about it, but it's not as nice, obviously, in as Twitch. But you're talking about Twitch that's owned by Amazon, man. So there's tons of money being thrown in there.
Right.
Uh, or caffeine and others. Mixer is getting big though too, isn't it? Because a lot of people stream on a lot of different platforms, Mixer and Twitch. I wish
Oh,
I yeah.
I'm sending it to people.
Are we gonna talk about something?
Yeah, we're gonna actually talk about something.
All right.
Let's get Dobbs up in here. Send that to Dobbs.
Get all the Halo people. Do you still talk to um Ahab and what's his name?
On occasion.
Oh, on occasion.
Yeah.
Like through what? Through that app?
Uh, yeah. Or I'll directly text.
Oh, okay.
Or
Are they still?
maybe on Snapchat sometimes.
Oh, really? Are they still playing a lot of games? I mean, what's new with
Not
them?
not not really.
You want some Arabic list?
Arabic class.
Where's my where's my freaking? I can't. Can you hear it well or no?
I mean, I can hear it. Well is
Did you, did
well
you
is
hear that music or
subjective.
no?
Yeah, I heard it.
Oh, okay.
Where's that chat at? Okay, there's the chat. I can't see if there's anyone like watching. Can you see? I can't. Okay, I can. I can see on Restream it shows me.
You couldn't see you? Hey, can you hear me clear still?
Say what?
Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Okay, even with the music in the background? Or you cannot hear the
I
music?
wouldn't play the music while we're talking.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'll be dancing the whole time, bro. Especially when I play my jams, man. You don't even know.
Okay. All right, we should have probably prepared and had better talking points. But
No, we don't need to take it as serious this time, man. Oh.
so you just wanted this to be like kind of impromptu, just like okay, let's talk about
We can talk about like how what got us into research, what got us into wanting to learn and find out what's the truth behind. Um, I think we both know we started with religion. That was the biggest thing.
did that start with religion for me? I don't know if it
I did, at least. I did. That
my
was where I
my
started. Well,
mine was definitely like built on like existential thought and like questioning religions, but I've always thought outside the box as far as
yeah. Mine actually started with, I can't forget about that. Mine started with 9/11. That's where um, I started questioning things, and I started to study like how just so many different things. And as an engineer, like I was going to school in engineering, and I was looking, and watching these videos that were posted on YouTube and everywhere, and studying on them. Like, man, this stuff doesn't make sense. And then you'd wait a few months, and then you'd have like structural engineers that come out and say, hey, these buildings didn't go down the way they did. It's not possible without demolition. And then it makes you scratch your head, like, what? So then you look into it more, and you find out different things. And and so obviously there's so many different routes that I took before I got to my own conclusion. Obviously, I mean, everybody's got their own little belief of what really happened, um, but yeah, man, I was a good it was a good year, maybe year and a half of just hardcore research on just 9/11 and what took place. Now we're never gonna find out, obviously, the real truth behind it and what's the major plan. Even though I have my own um, opinion on it, doesn't mean that that's exactly the plan that they really had in mind. Um, you know,
right.
that was my step in the door, road to the truth.
It it's usually like so what we got now like I was probably talking to you and saying like now we're at a spot where people have been home for longer than three weeks for the most part, and it
Yeah,
takes 21 days they say to develop or lose a habit, right? So now we're
yeah,
at a point where like all these people like their everyday normal life has been interrupted for long enough that those patterns have been interrupted, and it's usually whenever some sort of major thing happens and people have to reassess. That's when they start to question things, and they can move from like very surface level understanding to, like, like you were talking about, going through that whole situation where you were getting to different deeper and deeper layers of what's going on, and like and actually questioning things instead of just being um, passively taking in mainstream media as if it was,
Like my
gospel.
mom,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like it was like fact, not to be um, discussed in any way, shape, or form, or questioned.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it was a really tough time, and I remember it, man, because I literally lost interest in everything I used to be doing. I mean, I was involved in so many different things, man, in life. I was in school. I mean, obviously I didn't, I finished school with that, with that, but I stopped going to the gym as much. I stopped my interest in so many things related, that really keeps your mind out from thinking deep that way. I if to that level, I really just turned myself off to the world and just was like, I'm like, I really want to know. I really want to know the truth. And then, from that, after a year and a half of that, I expanded. I expanded out. I was like, you know what? If this is if this has been a lie, if this is not really true, well, what else is not true? There's can't be, this is the only thing that's a lie in my entire life. Like, there's got to be some more. But that's also around the time, you know, I used to, I'm sure I was a hardcore Christian, man, hardcore. I mean, 3 Bible studies a week, uh, church Saturdays, Fridays. I was involved in so many things. We used to go on so many trips, pray, and then it hit me one day. There was always in the back of my mind, like, something is not quite clicking for me.
Right.
And one day we all bowed down. I still remember that day to this day. I'll tell you exactly what hall we were in, and we were sitting, and everybody was praying, and there was like maybe 200 people in the room, man, and everybody just bowed down their heads, and I'm like, Jesus, and they were like, Jesus, I can feel you, and I'm like, I finally snapped, man. I was like, man, how is everybody feeling this and not me? Like, why, like, and at that time, man, I mean, I was really devoted. I was really devoted, in my faith and everything that I was doing. I was like, this is the truth, this is the way, this is life. And I was always so freaking happy. I was so happy to be around that group of people, and I enjoyed being around every single one of those people, every day, that I was there. And so it really, you know it never quite hit me. And then I left, literally, I'm leaving the door of that hall, and it just hit me. It just literally hit me. I knew what I was feeling, and it's almost like I felt like I knew what I was feeling and I knew what they were feeling. But obviously, I'm not gonna go tell them, "Hey, you're not feeling Jesus. I know what you're feeling." No,
Right.
So I felt like it's just the what do you call it, when it's the atmosphere. When you're in an atmosphere, man. I mean, even if we've been to Sadhguru, for example, his dome, and that atmosphere that he puts you in, man. It's just undescribable, man. It's just, there's nothing like it. You just don't even feel like you're on Earth when you're in his dome, doing his meditation. So you go from that, and I left the group, like I said, I left that hall, and I finally realized that what I was feeling was love. It's just everybody with such good intentions in the room, throwing it out, that energy that everybody was throwing out in the room. That was love, man. That wasn't necessarily feeling Jesus, or maybe they can describe that as Jesus. And I never took that at that time, that, hey, maybe that's what they feel, and this is their Jesus. Obviously, you can't tell them that, because they're going to be like, no, that's actually Jesus. But it's just a feeling. The feeling was really nice. I'm not going to tell you the feeling was not nice, but I can't tell you that I felt Jesus. I don't know how Jesus feels like. If it feels like love, then hey, then I know Jesus is love. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
So that's when it started to hit me, man, and I started to really, I wanted to go on a path to learn, like, if this is true, if religion is love, or if Jesus is love, um, you know, why am I in the right religion? How come I'm lucky to be born into my religion, and feel the love of Jesus, and obviously nobody else worship Jesus, so other than Christians, so how why are they doomed when they were born? I mean,
Right,
what
right,
kind of God allows people to be born and doomed right away? I mean,
right.
there's more Muslims than Christians. There's more of any, of almost any other religion than Christians in the world, and you got
I guess that depends on
us
who you
going to
ask,
heaven.
though.
What?
Different people have different repositories of where they get facts and figures relating to different religions and how prevalent they are in the current culture.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I didn't, you know, it's hard to explain, man. But I just started to really realize like there's no way if 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 God, to me at least, if God was, chose us to be saviors and go to heaven and did not choose other people, to me that didn't feel like it's a God that I want to worship. You know
Right,
what I mean? So obviously, like, I mean, you I can't sit here and tell you which God is the right God, which God is the wrong God, but I can sit and tell you every God works for whoever wants to believe in him. And it's a good point. I think we had a talk yesterday about that, like where, every religion is good for those people that believe in that religion.
right,
And that's it, because they're molded into that. They're born into that. They're taught this is good, this is bad, this is this. And you follow that story, you follow that, you are sucked in maybe 30 years at least before you can you feel like you're able to start thinking outside the box and think for yourself. I've never met any Lebanese. I met one really that thought outside the box, but very rarely do I meet any Lebanese people that will come and tell you like, oh yeah, man, religion is this and that. Like, no, they'll tell you, oh, it's Jesus, Lord and Savior, this and that. That's it. It's just their stubbornness to that. And so I really learned to really just respect it, because that's what makes them feel. That's what makes them mentally stable. That's what makes them happy. That's what makes them go every day. So I can't. Who am I to tell them you're not in the right path? This is what makes them feel similar to meditation and what makes me feel.
right, right.
So who am I to come back and tell a couple million people that they've been thinking about the religion differently or in a wrong way? Because it's you know in the end of the day, it's not really right and wrong. It's like
It's
like
what's
we like you said
functional.
to me. Yeah, it's just, this is what you're born into, this is what you're taught, and this is what works for you, and this is what makes you a good person. And if that makes you a good person, if you being a Christian makes you a better person than me being a Muslim or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, then that's how it should be. You know what I
When you
mean?
say better, let's like kind of break
Better
that down a little
person,
bit.
really. Yeah, yeah.
If it is a tool in which it helps you become a better version of yourself, then more power to the tool. If it works, it works, right?
Correct.
We're not talking
So
about like you're better than someone.
correct.
It,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a,
Like
it's a
exactly.
functional.
Yeah, I'm not comparing people to people based on their religion, but more is if this works better for you. It's a different, better way to put it. If this is gonna make you a good person perspective. If this is gonna make you mentally well, mentally, happy, enjoying your life, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. There's many names to it, but that's all I mean by it. And so, but remember, for a long time after I got to that conclusion, after researching for years and years, um, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Zen, all kinds of religions. And I started, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to understand why am I right and they're all wrong. Not only that, why do they think they're right? Is there something in their books that's better than the Bible?
Hmm.
What makes them better? So to me, it wasn't fair to me to say my thought process or my religion was better without me going and looking at every single one, finding out what they do, studying it top to bottom, understanding it as best as my ability without judging it,
Right,
and finding out like what does it take to be in their religion, in their shoes, in this, and then coming up to my own conclusion.
right,
And
right.
this is where I think me and you went on like few years. I mean, it was like a few years back and forth, sharing so much knowledge, videos, all kinds of different people. There's people that agreed. There's people that we shared that we agreed with each other, and there's people that you'd send me some people that I really didn't agree with, and
Right.
then I'd send you some people that you were like, oh yeah, but this guy is an idiot, or there's things about him that you didn't. But to me, I'm very thankful for that because it made me realize that, listen, just because I found a guy first or I found this doesn't mean that they're right, and I need to really look into what he's doing,
Right.
his work, test it, whether it's meditation, whether it's a study. What did he do with that study? I mean, even Ulster Crowley, like Satanism and this and that, like these things that are labeled really bad, like
But he himself isn't considered a Satanist. He himself created the religion Thelema, which is based off of his whole concept summed up is to do thou will. But but when you do your will, it's not like your egotistical, selfish will, like do anything you want. It's kind of like, hey, I was put here on for a purpose. What my purpose is, and live that purpose to the highest possibility. And that was like his main teaching. That was
yeah,
like but so the other veins of Satanism would be like the LaVeyan Satanism, right? Like what was his first name? Anth no. Anthony no. But that's the Satanism that was all about selfish indulgence, right? It was all about basically taking all your vices and indulging in them, and letting your selfish desires be your compass, right? Instead of having any sort of morals, and that, yeah, that's LaVeyan Satanism. But there's lots of other different types of Satanism that, even though they're Satanism, they're actually paradoxical to each other, right?
yeah,
They lay because a lot of them is, hey, let's take like the one of the biggest world's like evil guys, and like let's make him our our um our point of worship. And different sects or different versions of Satanism, even they'll relate to it differently. One can be extremely altruistic. It's just they use that because it's cool to use it as a different figurehead. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's like whatever. But
Yeah, but I mean, my point is, for the longest time, if you would tell me, hey, Satanism, as soon as you put that word out, I'm attacking it, and I'm like, what? Get the fuck out, because that's what you're taught. You're taught like, this is all bad, this and that. But I never really learned the history and that. And I'm not saying I respect it, I agree with it, I respect it, or this that, but it's good to learn. That's what a lot of people, you know, because of what they're taught, because of the culture, because of what they grow up and they're taught in life, they would be closed minded as soon as they hear one word.
right,
It doesn't matter what it is. Islam, if you're a Christian,
right.
closed. I'm done.
Because
Nope, I don't
it
believe.
carries cultural or like socially inherited, simple-minded connotations
Yeah,
that don't really reflect the true nature of the subject, and it's a very surface level understanding. It doesn't have any sort of real substance to it. Like when you ask them, people that kind of carry those beliefs, when you attack them, they'll get very emotionally defensive because they really don't have any real structure or understanding or knowledge on the subject, because it's just inherited. Hey, this is what we think, this is what we do, this is how we act. They don't know why they do these things. It's just like I forgot what the concept is, but there's a thing, and it's like, say you have like a family of monkeys in a cage, and you start, and you have a ladder in the middle of the cage or something like that, and the monkeys start climbing up to the top of the ladder. If every time those monkeys get to the top of the ladder you spray them with water, it will deter them from keep going up that ladder. After time, if they have a kid, the kid won't go up the ladder because the rest of the people won't go up the ladder, and then you work on, a couple generations down, the monkeys just don't go up the ladder, and they don't know why they're not going up the ladder. They just don't do it, and they're inherited these socially indoctrinated behavior mechanisms, really, and they don't even know why they're not going up the ladder anymore. They just don't do it because it's
yeah,
almost like instilled in them,
Yeah,
and the same things happen with human beings.
yeah. No, I agree 100%, man. I agree. Um, but and that's a good example, yeah, because I mean, people learn things, through their culture, through this, and there's words, in Lebanese or Arabic language that we say to each other without even thinking. But if you actually, so if somebody asks you, in American, somebody asks you, hey, uh, what does that mean, or what does that mean? Yeah, you explain it to them, and they're like, huh. And then you think about it, and you're like, yeah, I know it doesn't make sense, man, but that's what everybody else says. We've been saying this for centuries,
You're right.
so everybody knows what it is.
Right, right.
And that's what it is. It's just, those are things I started to become more aware of, around that time too. Is like, man, we say some things that are like, even in the name of the religion, we say some things that just make no sense. Even if you ask like the priest, and he's like, yeah, it's just, we just say it, man. And I'm like, but it's against it's against your religion.
Right, right.
But he's like, yeah, it's just what people say. And I'm like, man, if we became ignorant to that level where we're like, we worship our religions hardcore, but then we're not really aware of things we say, because that's what we've always said.
Right.
That's the language, and this is the way we say things. So, to my point, like, go back to that, is just, it's just unbelievable, man. The amount of, I don't know how to describe this really, influence your culture has on you, on not just religion and so many other different levels, but like, they really mold you into who you are. Simple as that. And it's really hard for anybody, especially people in the Middle East, to get out of that moldation, because we live on probably the most strictest laws and rules, and maybe you can say cultural laws, because God forbid you do something that's out of your culture, that your culture does not normally do, you are being judged by everyone and their mom. And it's not like, you're in the
Social
US and you go
shaming.
sleep with somebody and nobody gives a shit. In Lebanon, when I grew up, at least at the time that I grew up in Lebanon, you got a girl that sleeps with a guy, she's shunned for her entire life. Now it's a little bit better, but it's still, nobody, all the boys, all the girls, all the boys are only look for virgins, and all the girls, try to not, lose it to anybody but their first guy that they're in love with. It's just a lot of people just afraid of that judgment, and to me, there's nothing more limited than that. When you live your life afraid of what somebody else thinks, you are bounding yourself to you're really being who they want you to be. It's simple as that. It's not, you're not being you anymore. You're being somebody else. You are limiting yourself on so many aspects to grow. Period. And I couldn't do that, man. I mean, I pissed off so many people, so much family, so many friends. I know a lot of friends are not happy with the way that I think about religion. I know a lot of family are not happy with the way that I feel about religion.
But do they
Even though,
really know how you feel though? Do they
exactly,
really understand, or do they
that,
have like kind of like this little trap? As soon as you start talking about it, they create this whole association with all these different preconceived notions of what you're saying, and there's like this. Even though you're saying it, it's not getting through their filters.
yeah, it's exactly that, man. That's exactly what I was finishing off my sentence with, is that they believe that I'm an atheist. That's it.
Right,
That's
right,
what they
right.
do. And that's it. You don't believe in God, you're an atheist. If you don't believe in God, what do you believe in? And so that's their notion, is like, oh, there's got to be somebody, otherwise you're an atheist. And so they're not going to understand that, man. They're not, and I always wish that somebody comes up to me. I have maybe two Arabic friends that understand it, and one of them actually is a Christian that got married to a Muslim girl, and he's very much like us. You can say maybe he's more Buddhist than anything, but he doesn't have that strict feel like, oh, there's a God, or I have to go to church, or I have to worship him, and I have to go and pay the church to stay alive.
Well,
uh, you know, so it's I don't know, I lost my track of thought of where I was going with
Well,
that,
so just the tithing thing. So like like people will bring up tithing, and often people will say well, you're paying a church and you have to like buy a subscription to go to heaven, which I can see that interpretation of it. But I also see it as tithing as long as a psychological functional tool. So something that I like to do is I like to analyze religions and like the different re- religious ceremonies or rituals or things that they say or do, and I try to figure out what's the what's what's the functional tool of that, right? And one of the things that I've really analyzed was tithing, and I think what tithing kind of works as a function is it helps you if as long you like give 10% or 5% or whatever. The point is you're not holding on to that money and it breaks that attachment, right? So like, you could give it to the church or you could give it to poor people or you could give it to rich people or you could just whatever. The whole point is um I think it's about the charity aspect of it, and also breaking yourself from that like that greedy mentality, right? And so I think it can work in that function. But I totally get where people can think, and it could be a viable part of it where you got to pay as a subscription to go to heaven. I mean, I get that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they look at it. That's not really looking at it as in. But no, well, you're right. No, there is. It's in the Bible to pay. You should be given 10% of your income, back to God or back to the church to do good with it. And I agree to that to an extent. Except I don't believe what the churches use that money for is necessarily what we should be giving the money away. Like right now, what I give my money away, not necessarily money, because I don't know if I can tell you that I trust all the organizations out there or any organization that
Right.
to do what I would like done with my money.
Right.
So instead, I find any opportunity that I can give back and I do it. For example, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I had a guy call me one time. He's living in his car and he goes, "I want your 4 DVD bundle." I was selling them for 400 or 600 at the time, something like that. He goes, I only have $200. Would you take $200? And and I'm like, he's like, listen, man, I just got a divorce. I just lost my job. I'm living in my car. I got my laptop and it's all I got. Can I give you $200 for them? And I'm like, man, just take the DVDs. If those help you out in life, come back sometime to me. You can pay them back. You can pay me $200 back. I didn't expect anything back basically. And I was like, you know what, this guy, I'm doing good. I'm living. These DVDs are done. It cost me $3 to ship them to him. What am I losing by that? You know what I mean? I'm like, that's the least I could do. I'm like, let me help him out.
Right.
So I
Right.
sent him out, and just to show that like it's unbelievable, these things and what they do in karma and all that in life is that this guy calls me a year and a half later. He's not only he got a job and he was doing well, and then he got promoted and now he works for NASA, making 120,000 a year.
Wow.
A year, no, that was sorry. A year and a half, he called me. Sorry, so here's the story. A year and a half after I gave it to him, he called me to say thank you, and he sent me the money, $600 back as a check to my house. He's like, here's the full money for this. Thank you for what you've done. I'm back on my feet. This and that. I just wanted to know I appreciate what you've done. 2.5 years later, he calls me back saying, now I'm working. He's the head of the manufacturing in NASA, making more than I am, and telling me like, look at. He just wanted to show me, and he told me this, by the way. And at that time, for the longest time, I kept getting orders to the same city, for like the longest time, and I didn't understand what until he told me he's been telling every engineer that works at NASA, everybody that get this guy's training. And I didn't know this for years. So
Wow.
from this one guy, man, I ended up probably making, 20K from the training. And not only that, now his life is better than anything. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I want to see. That's what I want to show, because obviously giving money away, somebody can go and buy alcohol and then, you know what I
Uh,
mean?
yeah, I've been called out by people. So like I did experiments like when I was trying to like understand like if there was any functional reasoning behind it. So like I would go and I'd take like $20 and like I'd see someone homeless and I'd be like I'd walk up to him and give him $20, right? Uh, Unfortunately, sometimes when you do that, it can be taken in. They're not in the proper state to be able to handle that type of income coming in, right? Like they make bad decisions with it. And I remember one time I had a friend tell me, "Hey, you know that $20 that you gave that guy? I saw him still sitting on the same corner and he was eating a pizza." And I'm like, "Oh man." Right? And then I remember I
Yeah.
gave another guy money and I think he walked into the gas station and he just went and bought alcohol. But I'm sure I've given other people money and
Yeah.
it's been taken it's been used in a beneficial way to them, not so short sighted like that, right? But I mean, what can you do? Like if someone comes up to you in your experience and they say, "Hey, I don't have anything. I just want to get some sort of food or something like that." I mean,
I in my experience, and this is what I've always done right now, for the last maybe 10 years, is I stopped giving money and I literally just go and buy food and bring it back to them.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
hungry, here's a burger,
yep,
man, and that's it.
right,
This
right,
is,
right,
and you can tell, in the there's people, even though they're sitting down and hungry, they'll be like, they'll give them a meal and they'll be like, "Hey, do you have 20 bucks? Why do you need 20 bucks? I just give you a meal." I mean, it's you can see that they have other intentions with the money. And there's people that are
possibly,
they'll thank me for like 5 minutes as I'm leaving, and I have to like literally run away from them before, you know, just to get away. But it's unbelievable like that there are and there's sadly there's more people that are not as thankful even though they're not in a situation to be greedy. And so that's why I made the decision, like, you know what, I know what they need. The most important thing you need when you're poor and you're on the street is food. That's what you need to stay alive more than anything. I mean,
yeah,
if I
right,
see somebody obviously in a t-shirt, I'll go buy a coat, and I've done that before. I've actually, I've had one time, before I got married. I think I had like four coats that I would never wear. I mean, I just had them in my house and I'd never wear them. And I went with my buddy, man. It was a Friday night. I still remember it to this day. I went with my buddy to downtown Chicago, and we drove by and we looked at a street that's known. It's like a little bridge the train goes over, and all the poor people sleep underneath it. I mean, think about that. They're at the worst location. Trains over their head, and some of them are in their tents. And then one guy like gets out. It's like 35 degrees out. One guy gets out in like a little t-shirt and the holes in it. So we started like, every time, "Hey man, you need a coat? Here you go." I mean, I think we ended up giving one dude that's like 300 pounds a coat that's not gonna fit him. But I'm like, maybe he can do something with it. But like he's like, "Hey, at least maybe you can fit it half your body and be, you know um better than what you were." But like, that's the kind of mindset, like, for the past 10, 12 years I put myself in, is like, "Hey, I'm gonna give back, but I'm gonna give back in a way where I know it did something, rather than
like
putting
some sort
money."
of automatic, like, hey, you have to tithe. Yeah, my sister just said tithing was originally meant to go to the Levities because they were not able to work because of serving as priests.
Yeah, yeah. And I've read that. I'm not sure where I read that actually, but I've read that multiple places. And I did read Jamie's comment. I'm not sure if she's still watching. That's your sister?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah, man. I mean, it's the road, man. It's the road that I got into. It started with 9/11, questioning 9/11, to questioning my religion, which took my most. I mean, I literally have 4 terabytes of information,
Hmm.
4 terabytes of videos, articles, debates, really good debates, all kinds of stuff, man. That um, really make you scratch your head if you start to get into them. And I mean, there's one video that I saw which was really good. I don't know if you've ever seen Caesar's Messiah. Have you ever seen that?
I, I know the name. I've
Okay.
probably
It's
watched part of it
it's
at
really
least.
good. It's about all these historians all around the world. They got together and they wanted to see if historically Christianity is real.
Hmm.
Historically, not in the Bible. Historically, is there history? Is there proof of history of these people actually existing? You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny. I mean, it's really good to watch because it actually really gets down to show you how. I mean, I don't want to say it to Christians here because I'm sure it'll offend a lot of people, but it really explains how the story of Jesus was created, and whether people want to believe that it was real or not. But it was, at least to my research and to what I'm finding out, it was a great story that was created specifically for control, and the Romans did it, and they did it for a reason. They actually could not convince the Jews at the time, could not convince them to man, I'd have to really get back and dig into that. I don't know if it was to leave their land or to get out of a certain area or something like that, and to either move to a different area or something like that. And they had to use one of their own trusted guys, have him write the Bible and show it to them, and tell them like, hey, this is the story of Christ. This is the truth. This is this, and they started to follow him closely, and it was like an unbelievable, a very very geniusly put plan, and this is actually documented. This is actually with different names than Jesus, for example, and this and that, but like it's the exact story. But and the funny thing is the only proof that they actually found of Jesus and his whereabouts is in India, and
I've heard stories about that.
they actually have a what do you call it, it's, I don't know what you call those things that are I mean, it's like a coffin, but it's not. It's like an outer box that people can come out from around it and see it and touch it, but it's not like an underground. They didn't bury him underground. They buried him above ground, and there's a little area that's like surrounding it, and it's guarded, and it's a holy place, and it's actually, if you the name is a little different, but it's very close to Jesus, and it means Jesus of Nazareth. And it's I mean, this is documented in history. I'm talking about, not hey, this is in the Bible, this and that. And they talk a lot about the Buddhism and Buddhists. They talk about how Jesus went in those 18 missing years of his. He actually wanted to travel and learn all about what Buddha did, and he went in his path. He actually went all the way to Tibet, and he actually met with a monk in Tibet, and he spent a lot of time there until he reached enlightenment. And all the times that they say Jesus was praying, he was actually meditating. I mean, they have his story. They called him Jesus of Nazareth as well. It's a different meaning, a little different meaning to it, but it's the same guy, the same description during that same missing years of Jesus. Now, could he be a real story? Definitely. I'm not gonna say he's a fake or he's not a real story,
Right.
because even Buddhists have his history. But then you go to the Bible and you ask any Christian, hey, where was Jesus in the last 18 years, or in his 18 years from 12 to 30? He was missing. He was in the Bible. How do you have history of a guy from 0 to 12 and then nothing for 18 years, and then detailed history of his last 2 years? How do you have detailed history of his first 12 years and then nothing? Does that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't, if you have no 18-year history, how do you have 12 years of his first 12 years of history? How do you have that and then have nothing in the 18 years, and then you have the last 2 years in details? So something is off. And then, obviously you start digging in more and more into religion. You look into the Gospel of Thomas. Why is it removed from the Bible? You look
Yeah, I
what
really
the
like that gospel.
Yeah,
That's
you
one of
look
my
into the
favorite.
Gospel of Thomas, and it's literally like it's like a Zen book more than more
Right.
than
Right.
religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's then you're like, ah,
Like, what's
why,
wrong with this? Why wouldn't you include this?
yeah, why don't you? Why are we removing these books left and right? I mean, I think I had a timeline, dude. I had a wall one time with a timeline of all the changes done in the Bible, and what I was trying to do is trying to figure out why at that time that was removed. And I think I got like one or two of them, but it was just really difficult. I mean, I had to study everything that happened that year, but then I'm like, well, what if it's something happened a few years before that made the church remove that Bible? So I could not like really zone in to what made them remove certain things from the Bible. But the Bible's been changed 250 times.
Oh,
Why?
I'm sure it's been changed more than that. So,
Yeah,
so,
over
so,
250
so two
times. Yeah.
things. One is what I always kind of bring up is that the the Bible, or any knowledge for that matter, when you put it down on paper, especially when it's in older languages, specifically Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, right? And that Bible goes through different changes just through the translation of languages. There's so much things that are every from person to person. There's going to be information lost in translation. It's the game of telephone over a very large amount of time. There's going to be things that are going to be misunderstood, misconstrued, and just by virtue of that, like you have to really go back to its ancient languages and read it how it was meant to be read, and like it,
And not
there's a
only
lot more
that,
depth to it than what we are reading now. Now the parables in there and the stories, um, and I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm not gonna like stand and say one way or the other, but there are functional stories in there. But when you look at it from the perspective of just common sense of like being able to relate information from one person to another, just me talking to you right now, there's probably information that's not, maybe not 100% being transmuted or transmitted. Uh, think about over 2,000 years, and then with people in power that might have some sort of um, reason to twist things or whatever. There's so many different people that probably got their hands on it with different agendas that could have twisted it, um, regardless of like what its beginnings were. I mean, just by that fact, it's really hard to sit there and take it for what it is, because there can be so many different um, inconsistencies or errors or however you want to say it. Um, but
yeah,
but to be a paradoxical uh, perspective to what you were saying about Caesar's, what is it,
is a Messiah. Yeah.
Caesar's Messiah. So on the other side of that, there's a book called the Urantia book. I'm sure you're aware of it, right?
What is it called?
It's called Urantia.
Your
And
rancher. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
have that.
so the Rancher book and like the whole, I guess, Urantia society, they are of the opinion that Jesus was fact, and that so on the other side of it, they have their scholars that have apparently researched and have evidence that it's fact that he was here, he taught this, and this is what happened. So it's interesting because you have these two different groups that are very, very, very sure, scientifically speaking, with scholars that are saying, they're saying that it didn't happen. This is what happened. The Romans used it as a story. It was used as manipulate, control. And then Urantia saying, no, this was really true. He really had this. There was disciples. And then you got other sects like the Mormons that say that Jesus actually also came to America and walked on the lands of America, and like had a whole thing here. So like it just depends on who you ask what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And when it's going back that long, like
Culture.
as far as you when you go further back, you're gonna have less and less reliability to get like hold of like what's real fact. It's just stories at that point, right?
Yeah, and 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 you made a really good point with communication you know, the communication aspect of things. There's, I mean, if you think about it, just me passing information to you, just me talking to you, you're not gonna understand what I'm thinking 100%, or even what I'm saying 100%. How is this from generation to generation to generation to generation is being understood the same way?
Right.
It's not. And I'll be honest with you. So this is what I've done. I went on a crazy, and those are some subject we should probably leave to when we start, streaming for multiple platforms, but like I went on a crazy, I got to a point where, like, all right, I'm at the edge. I either need to figure out if Christianity is the one and only, or I need to find out that it's not. I need to see if it's not. Then I need to be looking. at others and try to study them and doing all this. So I started to go to these different pastors that I had. Three of them I knew personally, and I wanted to talk to them. I'm like, hey, I'm questioning my faith. I have some questions for you guys, and I wanted to go talk to you guys about these things. Could you have some time? And they were all welcoming, which I'm very thankful for. And so two of them were, I mean, when I tell you, you know, whatever I said, they were no. It's you gotta have you. If they couldn't answer it, they would go. It's faith. You gotta have faith. You gotta. And I'm like, all right. When I tell them you gotta put faith to the side, and this is where one of them really, I found out one of them was really open minded and really thought outside the box because when he realized that there were so many unanswered, he started to question things, and I still feel bad to this day because he actually left the church, and he
Ooh.
never told me that it's because of me, uh, necessarily, but he always hinted it. He goes, no, I went on my own thing, and I started looking things up, and then I did it, which is fair. Maybe I put a seed there, and then he made the decision later, which I'm glad because I really didn't
We
want to
got
be
a
the reason
doubting
why.
Thomas over here.
The what?
Doubting Thomas.
But what I was gonna say, but yeah, man. I mean, when I told those pastors, hey, if you leave faith out, just pretend I'm new to religion. I don't have the faith. How do you answer that? And one of them, I'm not honest with you, like, dude, he started stuttering like crazy, and this is when I realized he got nervous and he didn't know, and I'm not saying all pastors like that. I'm sure some pastors are really good at answering or really good at twisting things around, but he was a smart guy, and he knew the Bible top to bottom, and for him to stutter, he started to realize that like I'm really pushing his buttons, and I shouldn't be questioning, and so his only arguments were faith, and you shouldn't be questioning that. That's just what God does, and this is how it works, and that's what it says in the Bible. I'm like, all right, say the Bible never was written because it's written by men, which was he agreed upon 300 years after Christ,
Some people,
which he
but
agreed
some
upon.
people, the antithesis to that is some people would say, although it was written by men, it was divinely inspired.
By the Holy Spirit.
Right, right,
So I got family that tell me that the same thing is like, yeah, but it was guided by the Holy Spirit.
right.
Why was it guided 300 years after? Why did this Holy Spirit wait 300 years? They wanted to make sure everybody's dead before they. I mean, it just you could ask these questions, and you should, like if you're really trying to find out if what you're following is real, if what you're following is true, then you need to ask. You need to not be afraid to ask these questions, and they should have a solid answer other than I believe. Well, guess what? The word believe is to know something is not true. That's why you believe. If you know it, you would say, I know it. I know Jesus exists. All right, so tell him to come here. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you believe it, then you're telling me that, hey, I believe it. I know he doesn't exist. I just believe he does, and then I'm with you. But saying that also means he's not real. So he's just believing he does. It's like, hey, I believe there's a ghost in my room that, you know, I I was gonna say something dirty, but but uh, but like like I could say anything. I believe in aliens. I haven't seen a UFO. I believe in this and that, and and I'm not afraid to say that. I believe in aliens. I believe in UFOs. I believe in extraterrestrial life. You know, I know I don't know if they exist. I don't know if they exist. I know they don't exist because I haven't seen one, but I believe that they do because I've studied them and I feel like what there's a good reason, there's a good chance that they exist. But I'm not afraid to say, hey, they may not exist. Or, no, they may not exist because I
Right,
haven't
right.
seen one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I've studied them enough because it's been in my interest for a while to study UFOs and extraterrestrials. I'm like, why is there so much information on that? I mean, I even believe in Bigfoot. Call me crazy. I believe there's a Bigfoot. But hey, I will keep it as believing. I will never say I know there's a Bigfoot. Oh no, I have never seen a Bigfoot. That's the biggest foot I've seen right there. That's the only.
So you're drawing a distinction between the word belief, its inclination, and you're what it means to you, and then knowing, and just basically saying that if you believe something, you're literally, by the definition of the word, you're saying that you don't know it for sure. You're putting it in place there as a placeholder, and yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's those are things that I've learned throughout my way. Like I didn't just believe like I've somebody said it, Sadhguru said that to me, and it rung a bell right away. And I'm like, he's right. To say to believe is to know that it's not true. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can't say I believe and I know at the same time. You either believe or you know. And if you're saying you believe in a God, then you know he's not there. He just believe in him. Or if you say I know he exists, then you better have some good proof that he exists, because otherwise you grew crazy. So that's why people say, I believe in God and the Holy Spirit, this and that, because it's you're just believing in it. It's just something that you put faith. But um, I for the longest time, man, I had the biggest anger towards my religion because I feel like I didn't grow out of it for a while, but I felt like I was misled, maybe is the right word to say. I didn't know if I didn't know if that was the right religion to be in, and I didn't know, and I was lost. Like if they're not right, then who is? And if I studied the rest and they're not right, and then what the heck? Like there's no way you can study all religions and come back and say, "Yep, that's the one, baby. That's this is the only one." If I have not seen, at least from my research, I have not seen one person go and study every single religion out there, every religion out there, which is years. I've been studying them for
I mean,
freaking 12
that's a
years.
lifetime.
That's a lifetime. You cannot even stop doing that. Even to this day, I feel like I want to go back and read some more stuff in both the Quran and the Bible and the other stuff, and learn more about Buddhism, about meditation, about Zen. I feel like I still haven't really dug deep down enough in Zen, And so I not one person that I have followed their story and have studied all of these religions can come here and tell you, yes, this is the right religion for you, for everybody, and that's what needs to be done. Not one person says that, and every single one comes to the same conclusion, which I've come up with. What works best is what religion feels closest to your heart, and what really sets you, helps you, like, just mentally, everything, like I know you described that to me yesterday better than I can describe it, but it's not really a you can describe it if you want, but like it's not what, you know I would say the right and wrong religion, but it's what fits you best for you to make you a better person in life, to make you, not better than another person in another religion, but better, just a better person in life, to give more, to help people, to love, to show kindness, and be humble, and all that, like, whatever one helps you be that. Because when you study all religions, man, you realize, you will get to a point and you realize that they all have that same message in different ways, depending on the culture. It's simple as that. It's whatever culture they grew up in, and they started to really study those religions, is where, they just have different ways of doing it. I mean, we Christians, we've shunned people like from Saudi Arabia, for example, for women not letting the men not letting women do anything, and they can marry as many as they want. This, as crazy as it sounds to us, this is their culture. Do you know that they look at us and they see us naked and they see us sinning? And this is where it's such a limitation, that we look at them and we get to judge them because we feel like we're superior to them, but they don't get to do this to us. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, I'm not defending, their views, and I'm not trying to hit on the religion or the Christian views as well. But when you start to study their perspective of things, you start to respect them. And when you start to respect them, you start to understand them a little bit more, and then you start to really, allow yourself to really learn their religion, really respect it, and not judge it, and not judging it in not just their religion, but any religion. You know what I mean? But I've come to respect, their religion a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people in my family, they'll come to me and they're like, "What are you crazy? They do this in their Bible." Yeah, and we're supposed to kill our neighbor in our Bible too. You don't go kill your neighbor if you see him digging in his backyard on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there's hypocrisy there, and you don't
Right.
get to choose what's part of the Bible. Oh, it's in the Old Testament, it's a New Testament, it's in the Bible. You better freaking follow it, or it's so this is where I have the issues with, is that people pick and choose, especially from my own family. Like if I talk to my dad about this, and I'm not blaming him for it, but when I tell him there's something in the Bible, this is in the Bible, he goes, no, it's not. Priests didn't tell me that that's in the Bible. Like, just because the priest didn't tell you doesn't mean it's in the Bible, Dad. I can pull it up. I don't need you to pull it up. I know what's in the Bible. So it just makes it. There's one thing I learned, is to really just kill religion, even with my own family, because even when I try to describe things to them in a mature way, that there's no there's nothing you could say for you to tell somebody they've been living a lie, really, or not really a lie, but maybe something that they misunderstood for 50, 60 years. There's something about that, when you live that long, and you don't want to be told you've been wrong this whole time. Like,
Right.
oh, I just went to church 750,000 times for nothing. I gave 10% of my money, even more, for nothing. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
well, there's a couple. Can I say a couple things?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So one thing is, it doesn't matter what religion or what system or what creed a person, if that person's not developed, they can and will use that system, belief, book, creed, whatever. They will use it as a defense mechanism or tool to defend their behavior, actions, and whatnot. It comes to, it comes down to the ego latching on to said book, religion, creed, and maybe they haven't really dug deep into it, and so they don't know. So when you question them on it, which I call, kicking their pillars of belief, they get emotionally upset, and then the whole concept of self-preservation or ego at that time comes in comes into play, and it affects them.
Yes. Oh yeah. The ego. We can probably have 6 episodes on the ego alone, man.
All right.
I mean, it's a huge, aspect of what it does to you, and that to me was hands down. It's 11/11, by the way. I've been looking at 11/11 nonstop for the last 6 weeks, no joke. Um, but yeah, ego, man. I got to a point, and I actually have to thank you for that, because you pointed out to me when you started to realize that the ego was the real devil. And at the time, I think that was the first thing you ever said to me, was like, "Man, the ego is the devil." And then I kind of brushed it off. I'm like, nah, what, the ego is me though. The ego is me, and this and that, like who I am. And so then I start to realize like what it means, and I start to really look into it, and I start to realize like like it's we formed that ego like all our life. Like this is what we formed. So like for you to change somebody, especially at a touchy, taboo subject like we're talking about, like like religion or politics, you have to. I mean, you can't go about it like you're arguing somebody about what's the best MLB football team in the world, because arguing that, you can convince somebody, man, like, oh man, they got a good defense, they got a good offense, this and that. But when you're talking about, and obviously things like that, teams change, this and that, where religion and politics, usually whatever you are, whether Republican, Democrat, Christian, Muslim, you're there, and you've been there your entire life, and you've been formed that ego's been forming your entire life. For you to come and talk to somebody about that, you have to switch your ego to fit how, you know to allow yourself to talk in a method that allows that language to be transmitted in I don't know how to describe it, man. It's like, then you have to be like super open and nice, and not
Not in a
not make
manipulative
it look.
way.
Not what?
Not in a manipulative way.
Yeah, and not only that, like you have to be willing to to listen to them even more at that time, especially if you're trying to convince them of something different than you talking, because the more you attack with your point of view, the more they're gonna push back with their ego to prove you wrong, and it's gonna kill that entire subject. I mean, in my entire life, I probably was able to convince two people that about my views on religion and politics, and change their views, and that was a lot of freaking work. I mean, I felt like I needed a freaking Golden Globe, man, award for this. Like like, I mean, I seriously, man, I felt like it took so much energy, time,
But is
and
it right though? Is it right? Is were you? Because I know you won't say that you're 100% right. So, so with that being said, when you would introduce certain thoughts, ideas, and concepts to someone that kind of goes against what they believe and makes them question and makes them doubt, I mean, do you feel righteous in that? And by righteous, I mean, do you feel like you did the right thing, or do you ever have kind of, well, maybe I'm not right, and what I just did is I infected them with the same shit that's going on in my head. Like, what am I doing?
no, you're right. You're definitely right. I mean, man, that goes with anything. That not just religion, but with anything. I mean, even when I research about vaccine and about 5G, and I tell my friends about it and stuff like that, and then I see them, they took that information and then they pass it down, and I'm like, shit, what if I'm wrong? What if 5G is not too bad? Especially when people start questioning me, about it too, and I'm like, is it not bad? And then I look it up a little bit more, and then I realize, but it's be a bit behind the besides the point. You're right. I mean, dude, you have no idea how guilty I felt with that priest. It's a priest that left his church because I questioned, because I had a freaking talk with him. I mean, it's not necessarily that reason, but it's the root of it, and it's yeah. I feel like shit because, man, this guy was doing a lot of good to a lot of people. Now he may not be doing a lot of good to a lot of people. Maybe he's only doing good to him. I don't know. So yeah, yeah. There's definitely this thought always in the back of my mind. It's like, man, should I have done that? But here's a fairness though. I never push it. I never tell people, hey, this is the right path. It's always with those two people that I convinced. It's not convincing as in trying. It's convincing as in, um, you know, we both enjoyed talking about the subject. He wanted to keep talking about it. I wanted to keep talking about it. We kept talking about it, and then he finally started to realize that shit,
You raise
maybe
good
I'm wrong.
questions.
Yeah, I mean, like and maybe it's just because I've been doing so much research. I built myself the best questions you can ask. I mean, right now you
And
can
you
put
have
me,
to. If you're
yeah,
really seeking truth, if you really want truth, you have to be able to dispel with any attachment to any thought, concept, or idea, and you have to really be able to look at things with fresh eyes without any connotation of previous thoughts or ideas or
and that's
beliefs.
hard.
And it's really hard because then you start to see, holy shit, like just like the human eye, like everything right here looks like it's a one solid picture. But if you look in research into how the eye is, when we put our thumb up right here, we actually have spots of blindness right in front of us right here, about like where when we hold our thumbs out, about this, like where our thumbs at. And what happens is the optical lobe in the back of our brain, it literally edits out the hole in our vision. But just like that, our opinions on certain subjects, due to ego and our attachment and like self-preservation of that ego and our attachment, like it will create a story of the world around us where we edit out and we don't look at and for those questions, those things that could really change the way we see things, because they're edited out. And when a person comes to situations where they have ego death, that's whenever like your filters come down, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like I thought this was like one thing, and I thought I knew how the world worked. I don't know a goddamn thing. And now it's scary because there's so much information out there. It's what's right, what's wrong, what's left, what's right, and it can be a terrifying experience. But if you hunger for truth, if you really want to know truth, and you have these same existential questions like you do, you got to do the work. There's no and maybe that's why a lot of people, they're afraid in some
No.
sense because they have existential dread because if they do question that nice little story, and I'm not saying that it's not functional or right or wrong, but maybe if someone doesn't want to accept that, if they're gonna move to looking for truth, that's really fucking hard to confront,
Yeah.
especially whenever you grew up in like a situation like yourself where your friends and family and everyone around you, they were all on the same wavelength, and here you are like the black sheep or something like that, and like you're going outside the norm, like that can be extremely. I don't know if there would be something scarier than that because I mean, you're talking about like reality and life or death, and where's your body gonna go?
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. It wasn't scary at first because I was doing it behind the scene. I was doing it with just, talking to you, talking to other people. I met so many people online through my research, and it was really not that tough. But when I started to form an opinion about everything that I've learned, that's when I started to talk about it more. That's when I started to get lashback. And that's when it got scary because literally I started, commenting on people's posts or posting stuff about them on Facebook and stuff like that. And obviously, some of my friends who are, hardcore Christians, they didn't take that easily. And I'm sure they still question me and my faith and all that because of it. My family, my direct family knows exactly how I am, but um, some of my friends do, my close friends probably do, but most of them might not. But people have seen what I've been posted. I posted for a while at that time, and then I stopped because it was. It's not because I was scared of the judgment, more than I was scared of, more than how it was making me feel. Okay, so obviously, why would I sit and be sharing crap that, obviously it's my own opinion to begin with, but then it was making me feel like crap afterwards because people were commenting negative stuff. Now, I mean, I know it's hard to really, I've gotten good throughout the years to really brush that off. I mean, right now, if anybody comments anything on my post, I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter who you are, family member, friend, I will say, and I'm honest with my answer straight up, and I will give you the best answer that I could. I try to be the most respectful, but some of the stuff that I post, people are not nice to me, so it's a little tough to stay nice while discussing the subjects with them, which is my fault. Like I need to still be patient
Oh yeah.
um, while discussing some of these things with them, and just if I need to shut them up, I can shut them up with real facts rather than getting angry with them because they think differently on me. But either way, I know I'm moving to the side with that. But yeah, it was scary. It was scary later on, not in the beginning, but later on when I started to share. And then when I started to realize that that's a limitation on its own, to allow people to allow yourself to care to what others think,
Right.
and once I let that go, it felt amazing. So then now I don't care. Now now what I've learned and I've throughout the years, and I've grew to just have respect to all the religions, whether I agree with them or not, because I know they still do a lot of good. And because of that, I don't post religious stuff on Facebook and YouTube and other stuff. But doesn't mean that I stopped my research. Doesn't mean that I still not interest of mine, this and that. I just stopped posting because one, I don't want it to drag me down when I feel like I'm at a good mindset. I don't want it to drag me down in life. And then two is it's just it's so difficult to have a good conversation. I mean, you're one of very few people that I can sit and talk about this for
Right.
hours and
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
You
similar.
can't find people like that, man. You cannot find people that you can sit and talk about religion open-mindedly. They'll say they're open-minded, but as soon as you start hitting some points in their religion, they'll get defensive very fast. So,
Well,
um,
but that comes like I was saying before. That comes from like an ego, self-preservation. These are my ideas, my pillars of belief. And when you talk about them, it's a very sensitive subject. And if you hit it too hard, I mean, people are going to emotionally react and then close up.
yeah, no, 100%, man. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I like obviously like my wife is still religious. We have some saints pictures. Saint Marshal, which is a Lebanese saint, very famous Lebanese saints for actually doing miracles. In Lebanon, we have his picture here. We're gonna baptize our kid. Like I said, I'm still um, I still have the utmost respect for the religion, and that's because it's part of my culture. It's very hard. No, I'm not gonna get away from it. Unless I leave to Tibet. I'm not gonna get away from the religion. So I learned to respect it. I learned to respect my wife's view. She respects my view. I told her I'm gonna be talking to Chris today.
So
Um,
so you guys differentiate in your existential beliefs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She dude today this morning she was listening to the church all morning, because tomorrow's Easter, So she was listening to church all morning for like 2 hours, and I came and I sat down with her, listened for a little bit, and she even told me, hey man, we should meditate. We should meditate. We should get back into meditation. I start meditating every morning and evening, and I was like, yeah, we should. Like it's definitely so it's
That's
it's
so
something that I
interesting.
brought up to her on our first date because at the time, I had zero patience for bullshit. I didn't have room for bullshit. This is me. This is me. If we want to date, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is my path. And she literally like I've never met an open person right away, a girl right away that was this open to me, and she told me she is Christian, but she's also had her thoughts as well, her different thoughts as well, and she was opening. She was really excited to learn all the things that I've learned, and that was mind opening, But since day one we've agreed to that. Otherwise, obviously this would work. But again, I learned to respect it. I still go to church on occasions. If there's an Easter or something like that, like I would go to church with her because that's what she wants to do, and that's what makes her feel good. There's a church that it's a very known church in Lebanon. It's known for its miracles. Like you go there and pray, and a lot of times you ask and you actually receive if you have a pure heart. They say if you believe, obviously, but so she likes to go there. It makes her feel at ease, especially when we were going through a lot of our rough time. You know what we were going through. She wanted last time we were in Lebanon. She wanted to go there and pray, and I took her there multiple times, and she prayed. And it made her feel good. Hey, this is what works for her. What works for me is meditation, being by myself, clearing my mind. Everybody, you have to respect that, man. You have to respect that everybody's got their own way of praying, whether you want to call it pray, meditation, to whatever God you know what I mean. I mean, when I started to realize that I was hurting people by some of the stuff that I was posting, is when you're telling somebody that their God is not the right God or wrong. Um, you're hurting them more than you're helping them. You're pissing them off, which is hurting them. You know what I'm saying? Like you cannot. There's ways to go about talking about taboo subjects, whether it's politics or religion or whatever it is. Otherwise, you really can trigger things in people that have been built their entire life. So. But anyways, man, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back.
Okay. I'm gonna get water. Who's watching this? Whoever's watching this, post something in the chat. I see several people.
All right.
So I want to comment kind of like on all the stuff that you said. Yeah.
He's raising his hand. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm not here to say, or I would never say that one religion is better than the other or anything, but from like my worldview and my map is like this: is every religion. I mean, I'll tell people that if you look into Scientology, there are actually knowledge bites to some extent that are purposeful within Scientology. There's even purposeful stuff in Satanism and different veins of Satanism, um, and not in any sort of like selfish or destructive way. If you can look at these things with an open mind, you'll see merit in everything you look, and you don't just hold on to one. And so I try to hold the perspective that everything has some sort of benefit to someone, and that's why it exists. And to try to see things as all purposeful cogs in the wheel, as screwed up as some things may be. I try to hold that perspective. And uh, one of the things that I've kind of researched and studied was like different ways that people will perceive religion. And one of the things is called the locus of control. So when I say locus of control, different people interpret religion differently. Like just like I told you that the Satan can be used as a figurehead or a personification of the human ego, right?
Yeah.
Um, Looking at the human ego, like, and I always say the human ego out of balance in like some sort of state of like selfishness or overindulgence. Um, that's like looking at it internally, and that's called the internal locus of control. It's when you see those things that you're talking about in the stories, they're actually aspects of you, and if you understand them as such, you can work with them. But the opposite of that is called the external locus of control. And when we talk about external locus control, we're literally talking about when you believe in a God and it's external from you, and Satan's temptation. And when things come to you in your life and you're tempted by it, you're like, oh, this is Satan tempted me. Well, yeah, but that feeling that you have is like it's your ego and it's your own drive towards it. So you can look at it in the spectrum and within the, um, I guess, breakdown of it's your the devil tempting you, or you can look at it as you having all these compulsive things inside and being able to control it. It's two different ways to understand the same thing. One thing uses outside references, the other one looks at internal references. And I always found that to be a very good way to dichotomize things, to understand them and put them in their place. Hey, some people just see it out there and they use that mythology, and other people see it in here. They're both purposeful tools. It's just at the end of the day, like we talk about and we always say, is how good is that tool working in your life? What's your level of well-being that tool has? Or however you want to look at it, label it: tool, religion, creed, whatever. The somatics don't matter. What matters is it bringing you the highest level of well-being that you can have, and the other people around you, is it bringing them that same level of well-being? And so it, it they're all functional, purposeful tools if you have the right perspective on them. And I try to garner and develop that perspective as much as possible. That way I can relate to people from all different perspectives. And if they are religious and you know, they talk about like God as that thing in Christianity and the devil, well then when they talk about it, I can use their same language to relate to them and be closer as a human being to them. And that that's kind of my motivation for a lot of the reason I studied the things that I have. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so to add on that, when I look at religions, and we were talking about this the other day, I look at different religions almost like in different sections. Like, oh, this religion kind of talks about this part of life, like, you know, the external locus of control. And then you have psychology, it talks about the internal part of you. But there's different religions. For instance, Taoism, it doesn't even talk about deities or anything like that. It's almost it talks about everything as energy. So it relates to it using different language and terms and symbol sets and I almost think that they're taking the same pie and they're cutting this pie out and saying, "Hey, here's this piece of the pie, and this is how I look at it, my perspective." And then someone else cuts out this piece of pie and they look at it from this perspective. You guys are all cutting the same piece of pie. It's just the way you cut it up and you interact with it. That's
Yeah,
it. The
yeah,
symbol sets are the same. The language is the same. If you have the perspective to be able to relate this to this to this to this, and
yeah,
and then to me that's the most beneficial way you can look at it, because then no one has the right God or this or that. It's just a matter of how well is your thing working for you? Are you happy or not? Are the people around you happy?
yeah. No, that's actually very well put. I didn't actually start realizing how similar all religions are until the fourth religion that I've started to study, and I started to be like, man, I mean, I've always known, obviously, it's you can kind of say like, because Muhammad in the Quran is the prophet. And they believe that Jesus was the same thing as Muhammad. He was the prophet. So but they still believe in Jesus and they believe in it. So I've always known that those the only big difference between Christianity and Islam is that they believe that Jesus is not the son of God; it's just a prophet. And just like Muhammad is a prophet, but Muhammad is the latest prophet. So that's why they believe in him. So it's not necessarily they're probably the more similar than you would think. Believing wise, because they still believe in somebody that's up there, that's going. Obviously, with the Quran, they believe that their son is not sent yet; he will be sent, and where Christianity believes like it's already sent. So, but everything else, all the other beliefs are really very similar, except Muhammad wrote what you should and shouldn't do, while over there somebody else, a human being, wrote. But either way, I'm just talking about like those small differences. So Christianity and Islam is actually a lot more similar than you think. And then you got the rest of them. So I've always known those were similar. But then when I got to the third one,
They're
I'm
all
like,
Abrahamic.
the what?
They're Abrahamic.
Yeah. So when I got to like the third one, which I started to look into like Buddhism and Tao and Zen, and I started to look at what the way they think, the way they feel, the way um they go about how thankful they are. Especially when you get to Buddhism, they're thankful for everything. They're thankful for the food. They're thankful for this and like and just there's just you just start to really see the pies that are like that you're talking about, that how they're fitting together, and you start to realize that they're all after the same thing. They all want you to be giving, to respect others, to not steal, to it's literally the same thing. Everyone is telling you this is how you are a good human. If you don't steal, if you don't do this, if you give some to the poor, if you give a lending hand, if you know what I'm saying, like it's all doing the same. It's all believe and do the same thing. It's just written in a way to fit their culture.
Right.
It's simple as that. And that's
Somatics.
why that's called Buddhism. And that's why this is called this. And that's why that's called that. It's because that's how they grew with their culture, molded them for that view. And that's working for them. To your point, this is what works for them. This is what makes them happier. This is what makes them give to each other. This is what makes them better human beings. So I started to realize that in the fourth religion that I started to study, and then once I looked at the fifth one, I started to realize like, wow, they're all the same. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I've studied all religions because I didn't. I did not study every single religion. There's no way anybody will able to study their whole religion. They can live 10 lives. There's over freaking 5,000 religions. If you want to dig down to
I
the
think
little
I think
details of
there's more like 8 billion religions, right?
yeah, yeah. If you think about the people, yeah, because everybody thinks a little different than the next person. So there's things that you can tell a Christian person like, oh yeah, I agree with everything. But then I can find something that somebody doesn't agree with in the Bible, and I can give you 10 Christians right now, and I can show you that each of them don't believe in one thing in the Bible and they're all different things. That's 10 different religions. You either believe in the Bible or you don't. You can't say I believe in this part of the Bible or that part of the Bible. You either believe or you don't. If you do believe in part of it, then you're choosing to create your own religion, which, hey, I used to think it's wrong, or like, hey, you either believe or not. But I'm like, you know what, if that works for you, and that makes you a better human being, then I understand why there's that religion. But for the longest time before that, I used to fight that and be like, hey, this is why it's Christianity is wrong because there's 5,000 religions in Christianity alone, and there shouldn't be. And and this is why it's stupid because
All
everybody
the
makes their
different
own religion.
sects.
And then I realized it's not 5,000. It's like 6 billion or whatever. How many Christians there are. I think it's like 2 billion or 1.2 billion. It's that many religions because no two people. I mean, unless you got like your son. I mean, even if you got your son like brainwashed to think and do act like you, he will not be 100% like you. So he's gonna have something to think about that's different than you. So they, in the end of the day, they're all different. And but man, I'll tell you, it took me a long time to realize that it's not something that I just realized overnight. It took me maybe 10 years to realize that because I've had anger for the longest time towards toward Christianity because I felt like I was misled. Because think about that. I'm going to church. I'm doing all these things for 25, 30 years, and then I'm going to research, and then all of a sudden I've been wrong for 30 years. All the times I went to church and I've helped and I've built and I've worshiped and I've done, and I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like like something. For the longest time I was angry because of that. And once I realized that that whole thing was an anger, this is when I started to mature a little bit and realize that this is why I shouldn't be really talking about religion, not necessarily because it's a taboo, but it's because everybody's especially Middle Easterns, man. Middle Eastern, there's a reason why people pray for peace in the Middle East because it'll never be. That's because Middle Easterns are the most stubborn people in the world, and they will fight their religion to the death. And that's why
But
so many
you're
people
Middle
got in the
Eastern though. Let's
what?
keep that clear. You're Middle Eastern.
Hell yeah, man! I'm Middle East Lebanese, baby. But it doesn't. We are Middle Eastern. We are stubborn as shit, and it doesn't take that away from us. And there's a lot of good Middle Eastern people, man, that are very open minded, and you can easily talk to them and this and that. But they're very hard to find, and very very hard to find. I mean, from all my friends, I think I have one that I can talk to. This Middle Eastern that I've told you about. He married the Muslim girl, but other than that, very very hard. You can find a little bit more open people, especially like those who fall in love with somebody that a Christian fall in love with a Muslim. They'll be a little bit more open, but in the back of their head, if you actually talk to them on the side away from their spouse, they'll tell you like, no man, that's the truth. Like it's still, they just married, they fell in love, they felt like, no, we don't want religion to separate us, but each of them still are to that faith, even though one of them had to convert to do that. In their mind, they didn't care. It's just paper that says they're not Muslim anymore or they're not Christian anymore. And even my own sister, man, my sister was dating a Muslim guy for a long time, and so we pulled her to the side, me and my brother, and I told her, listen, we both approve. And I still remember to this day, and she cried a lot. I was like, listen, we both approve if you want to marry him. Just know it will be a difficult path. But listen, we will be there to protect you. We will be there by your side, but it will be a difficult path. His family, their culture is very different, very, very different. You can't be wearing your short shorts that you like to wear. You can't be wearing skirts that you like to wear out. Their culture is very, very different. So you have to understand what you're going into. You're not just going into love, you're actually marrying that entire culture. Unless you're planning to like leave and go live with him in Japan or something, but you either plan it right so you're not miserable, because that's the only thing I don't want to see is my sister miserable and divorced in a few years because she didn't think it through.
Right.
You have to understand that this is their culture and they want her to convert. So I'm like, you can convert by paper and not be in your mind. I don't care. We don't care about that. But just know that, when you have your kids, you're gonna have to live with them. They have strict rules. So she started crying a lot because she realized at the time right away that it's going to be a very difficult life. Even though she loves them, it's going to be a very difficult life. And they ended up breaking up, even though they really loved each other. And I really liked the
Oh.
guy, But like I said, You know, there are things that shoot, I was going somewhere with that, and I completely sidetracked where I was going with that. But you know,
Look, can I say a couple things?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
so
of
going
course.
back to when you were saying when people dedicate like 30 years of their life to like their thought belief system,
Culture, yeah,
however you want to like outline it and make that map or that model. Um, so like you can you there's two different ways that I can kind of look at it. So you could just say like every day you're putting energy into that, right? And that energy is like planting a seed and that thing grows. And you know, sitting there kind of questioning that thing over 30 years is kind of like coming down and trying to cut that thing that's been growing for 30 years. You know, it's energy you've invested. In a very real neurological standpoint, there's a rule in neuroscience called the Hib rule. Neurons that fire together wire together. And when you believe something and you go and you do it over and over again, it builds habits and like very thin neurons without that's not a habit, they'll start to form and then over time it'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. And when you go against that belief system or something like that, you're literally physically changing the wiring in your brain and it's literally breaking those connections. So like that's like hardcore. And then you talk about 30 years, imagine people that did it their whole life.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's why like my people like my parents and stuff like that. Like I can't talk to them about that subject. I mean, you know, obviously when I told them, you know, we were pregnant and that, they were like, you know, we prayed for you, we did this, and they, you know, they were trying to make me feel like that's why it worked and this and that, you know. And I, you know, I just laughed and
Maybe
says,
it worked.
what?
Maybe it worked.
Maybe no, but I didn't say that. I wanted them to
No,
feel
no,
good.
no. I'm serious though. There is
Oh,
th-
that the prayer. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're right.
there is like a real cosmology or a real model of reality or a real understanding or interpretation where your thoughts and so this could take us somewhere completely different in the conversation, but your thoughts are actually things. You are a magnetic entity, and when you think that thought goes out energetically, say magnetics, or say you believe in like the collective unconscious, and those thoughts can perpetuate or propagate through reality and cause things to happen, right? And
Yeah,
so in some shape or form, if you believe in that other model, then praying is just a different take on that model that I just said, and it's a functional way with symbol sets and a whole cosmology for that person to understand and relate with and talk. One thing that I said is that there's an interpretation. Jesus, as you learn it, Jesus can be, at least this is one model that you can pull from Christianity. Jesus becomes a symbolic representation of one's own unconscious or subconscious mind, what's currently called in psychology the default mode network. And over that time, you know, you pray to Jesus, save me, Jesus, save me. And you do all these different rituals. In one real sense, and a functional model is that Jesus then becomes this iconic symbolization for your unconscious, and through your whole life you've been working with it. And so it's a way for a human being to interact with their own unconscious through that and have palpable results, even if it's like this: please Jesus. And I'm not like trying to downgrade or make fun of it or anything like that, but realistically you say please Jesus, you know, say I need to find a job or whatever. On the energetic kind of model, it could go out there and it could literally go out there and influence the world, or however it works, and then good things could come to you, and in a very real way, with me understanding pattern recognition and dropping suggestions to my unconscious. It could literally put my mind in a frame where I am pattern recognizing the world and a way to interpret everything, and how can I get a job. You know, those
yeah,
are two different scenarios that could well be being played out. It's just a matter of, is it functional? Does it work? At the end of the day, that's all I care about. Does it work? And yeah, that I just kind of wanted to say that about like the whole
Yeah,
idea of
yeah, you made a good point on the especially on the pattern recognition. What was that you used to use that worked for you? I think you used to like write things down, and is it you know what I'm talking about? You used to write things down and repeat them over and over again. What was that called? You know what I'm talking about? You used to do that
oh, okay. So
and
yeah,
cite or
yeah,
say them
y-
over and over again or something like
okay,
that.
so there's different affirmations.
Affirmations. There we go. Oh
So
yeah.
you have affirmations, and then there's other. You can literally take your affirmation and turn it into a picture, and that picture becomes a symbolic representation. And just the idea of writing out your affirmations multiple times, and then drawing that, so taking it from language to a pictorial representation or symbolic representation. So you have like, if you want to believe in this, and I don't necessarily believe in the dichotomy of language in the left hemisphere and pictures in the right hemisphere, big picture versus like the details, but both of them access different parts of our brain. We can say that, whether it's a left and right side, who knows. But the point is you write down the affirmation. You could even speak the affirmation, and then you make it into a picture, and then you can meditate on it. And these are different ways for you to implant it into your subconscious mind. And then so eventually as you work through it, and I know you've done similar things, as you work through it, it will literally come up from your unconscious mind and affect how you feel energetically or emotionally, but then it'll change your pattern recognition, how you see the world around you.
Yep.
And you, I mean, you've had experience with that too, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Like
But no, the
remember
reason
when
I
we
was
got into synchronicities and we're like, holy shit! Like our mind, we were doing the same thing, and our minds were blown by how fast the synchronicities would come, and you're just like, dude, it like all of a sudden it's just everything, do all the time.
yeah, yeah. I know. I've had that like on and off for a while at that time when we were talking synchronicity, and even till today, I still have that with certain certain things that happen. But I really, to me, I feel like I have to put myself in a state of being a state of really being in the now, meditating, clearing my mind to start getting back into that again, and so I and this is where I guess it's one of I don't know if I would call it some of my negative aspect or not, but like absolutely
I'll
religion.
call it the fleshly nature of a human being.
Yeah, I mean, part of me, my favorite thing to talk about is religion. It's hands down religion.
Yep.
Obviously, it's a taboo for everybody else. The rest, I still enjoy it. I mean, sometimes I want to get away from religion a little bit. I'll still really enjoy researching even aliens or UFOs and crazy shit. Even Bigfoot, man. I follow a guy that all he does is dude, I'm gonna share you a link maybe. All he does is go out in forest in his sick 4K camera with amazing quality, and he goes in a forest and he'll spend days there and he'll record the whole thing, and you just sit and watch him, and you're waiting for a Bigfoot, and he'll hear something, and then you get excited, and it's nothing, and I've been freaking following him for 2 years, and there's nothing, you know. But I'm still excited to watch this. I mean, it's just like it's weird, but like stuff like that excite me, like it's like, hey, yeah, I believe Bigfoot exists or aliens exist because I believe in them. I don't know they exist, but I believe that they do. And so until I personally see one, I can never say that I do. I've seen enough, stuff that I can say that yeah, I really feel like they do exist. But obviously, unless you experience this yourself, you can never say you can, and even if you experience things yourself, sometimes you don't even know what the hell you experienced, so you can never say that I could have seen a shadow and I thought it was Bigfoot. No, I saw Bigfoot. you know and then good luck to having everybody else believe you on the side too. So it's just uh, I keep going off of these tangents when I'm talking, and I forget where I was going with my last point. But like, oh yeah, so
Talking about
religion is my first
synchronicities.
one, my first and my first love at least of research and finding out the truth, and that's because it was a big part of my life. Period. That's that. I was hardcore Christian, hardcore. More than a lot of my even family. My family didn't even go to church at the time where I was hardcore. Now my dad and mom never missed church. I know it's apparently they from what I found out through my brother, they've been praying for me to give back. That's why they go to church. But it's but hey, I'm glad maybe I did something good by doing this. Maybe I found my truth, and I got them to go back to the church where they should have been going to begin with, or that's what would have been good for them to begin with, where they lost track of something that would make them feel good or improve upon their life. So that's how the way that I took it is that maybe I did something positive into my family, even though they think I'm going downhill. I mean, I know my dad especially has lost all respect to me because of what
Really?
I believe. Oh yeah, I mean,
Wow.
he knows. I know that he knows I'm really smart in so many aspects in life. Like I know how to I don't need help financially. I don't need help this. I don't, I know how to fix everything in the house. He has a lot of respect to me in that aspect. He even calls me to help him fix these things. But religion, he'll call me the biggest moron in the world, and he'll tell me don't talk to people, don't talk in front of anybody about that. So he's definitely embarrassed that I believe what I believe, and it's understandable. He's lived his entire life believing what he believes. For your own son to come and tell you you're wrong. Think about that. I mean, think about you're 60 years old and your own son comes to tell you like, Dad, you've been dumb your entire life. This is the truth. What would you say? Get the especially if you're researching it your entire life. What would you say if your son came to you
I
and said, Dad, actually, Christianity is the real path, and this is why, and he gives you some really
if
good
my
dang
son came
proof.
and said that to me,
Yeah, when you're 60 years old and you've been researching your entire life.
I would have told him, okay,
I
so
mean,
so
you're
so
different.
so
You're yeah.
here's my perspective, okay? And I guess it's important, and I think you and I share like very similar viewpoints. Is that essentially any human thought is erroneous. Any human system of knowledge is erroneous, and as the Buddhists say, it's impermanent. And so the essential truth that I have discovered is that the only thing we can really say about reality is we can't really say anything about it, because as soon as you say it, it falls into so many different subjective, limited perspectives, and limited in the fact that it's language and built in linguistic constructs, that it's we're talking about it in a very short experience and from that perspective of experience. So how could we ever really have a big picture? We could never have the big picture. So although we can say things seem to be how they are, I would never say I'm 100% on anything. The only thing I could ever say is the only thing that we know is we know nothing. And from that, I build models, right? So this is my current model of reality. These are the language sets that I use. These are kind of the different dynamics within this language set. This is the dynamics in this language set. They're all functional, and as like Deepak Chopra would say, um, what's cool about models is when you develop your models enough, you get knowledge and technology is cool. But just because we have technology doesn't mean that there's not other models of existence, that we can build different models. For instance, what's interesting, we're going through a period of time where all of our knowledge is, a lot of it at least, is very externally based, right? All technology is out here. The internal technology, which is what I'm very interested in, it doesn't seem to be the biggest. Um, it seems to take a back seat to, you know, external technology, right? Like internal technology, and that's what I look at religions or any knowledge is. It's internal technology that can be utilized as tools, and that's one of the models I have, anyways. I will never say that religion is 100% just symbol sets that people could use in linguistic structures, because I don't want to have it be disrespectful in that way, because I know that all I know is I know nothing. And as long as I keep holding that perspective, it allows me to be open to everything. And then it allows me to see things like I do in different paradigms of function. And so it becomes able for me to be able to relate to everyone on every level. I see
Yeah.
things as they're just another human, and just like I know it's cliche and it's all new age, and I don't like the current connotation new age carries. But when people say namaste, it means I bow to the divine in you. What they're really what they're really saying is whatever the sources that we come from, we don't know, but that same source, we all come from it. Whether you want to say the same energy or the same nothingness or the same whatever, that's what that statement's saying. And so when you greet people with that, it's an affirmation that's constantly reaffirming in your working memory that perspective of
Yeah.
wholeness. But
Yeah. To me,
I don't
namaste is probably the most respected words I have
really.
because of that. Because when you say it, and it's, I mean, a lot of people still don't know it, but there's, more people, a lot of more people know it and respect it today than before, maybe 10 years ago. But because it's like you said, it's saying, hey, we're thankful for the divine, for whatever energy it is. It's not necessarily saying God, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Or
it's bowing down to like we
yeah,
all exist, or
yeah,
we all come from something.
correct. That's what I'm saying. So
Could
like, and being thankful of that, and that's something I can work with and I can agree with, because I don't necessarily want to say, God bless, if my thought of God is, because that's something Christians say. So that means I'm a Christian. And what if I'm wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather say, hey, I know something is there, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the food on my table, and stuff like that, rather than saying thank you God, for that, or thank you Lord Jesus Christ for doing that, and saying like a certain entity or a certain being. I've never seen Jesus. I've never seen a God. I know that there's, we're here, so something must have created us, but I would not say I know what that is. And by the way, to go back to your point of uh, all I know is that I know nothing. I actually bought a CNC machine piece of wood that have that, and so I have this in my working area at my job. All I know is I know nothing, and it's been nothing but freaking negative, bro. Dude, every time somebody comes in and asks me a question,
such
and
is
they're
the
like, "Why the hell did we ask you? Oh, you don't know shit." You look behind me, I'm like, "Get off my ball!" They're like, "You don't know nothing." So as an engineer, I'm like, man, maybe that's not the best place to put it. So I'm thinking of actually bringing it to home, because it's literally got enough in me.
su-
Nobody's ever said I like it.
such is the convoluted issues that come from words or sayings that have certain connotations in people. I mean, obviously they're probably joking with you, but at the same time, that's why you essentially cannot. That's a great example of you essentially can't speak of like the highest truth because you bring it down into some sort of um, um,
Humbling,
limited structure that everyone's going to have like a different perspective on. You just can't. As soon as you make a mythology, as soon as you make a science, as soon as you make any sort of um, con- construct, that construct falls into the rules of time and space. And the rules of time and space is that everything is impermanent. The only constant is change,
yeah.
right? And so that's why, like, so this guy, like, we literally I should get him actually in here to have a conversation with us. I met him last summer, and he hardcore Christian, man. He's read the Bible front to back. He said multiple times he knows it inside and out. We were talking about language, and he was just quoting the Bible, saying, the Bible says about language, what you speak, so it will be, whether it's positive or negative, basically, right? And he was like quoting different parts of the Bible. But anyways, it's so funny because we'll sit there and we'll talk about religion or whatever, and he's like, but don't you believe in God? And I'm like, I won't put anything into that container that's God because it carries all different connotations in its word, and I don't want to latch on to the outer surfaces of anything. And those are containers, and I don't want to. I don't like the containers in language. Let's just say that like we have very similar views. It's just semantics. You say tomato, I say tomato. You say this, I say that. But I won't desecrate what I consider the highest possible aspect that I can mentally reach. by trying to put in some sort of linguistic model. The linguistic model is always going to be a degrading to that highest thing, right?
Yeah. I sent you a little message. But yeah, man, let's seriously maybe we can start streaming this on Facebook, but let's because I know we touched upon a lot of topics today, and some of them were really
Yeah,
good. But maybe
we
we
can
can start
expand on it. We
out.
need to have talking points.
Yeah, we need to have talking points, and maybe like maybe we can start out by like if whether I want to tell my story or yours, but we can tell it in more detail in the entire path that we took to where we are and how we got there. But I think today was really good on the overview of everything we've come up through across the entire path. I think that was really good. But let's set that up, man. Maybe we can have like a whether it's weekly or twice a week or something like that, where we can chill and chat and and have these discussion points every week.
What would be cool is like if other people get brought into and it gets better. But this is
I'm
my
down.
favorite thing to talk about.
Me too.
This
Me too, man.
like I could
That's
talk
why I
about
brought it
this
up,
for
man.
hours upon, and I could go into all the just like you. That's why like we're so close is because we've both done this and done similar things so much. It's just
Yeah. No, it's good though, man. I'm like I mean, I always say like I've told this to my brother a few times too that I'm always blessed to have met somebody like you that doesn't not only thinks the same way but also thinks opposite in a lot of ways that challenges me
oh,
to
there's
not.
nobody that challenges like you and me do.
Yeah, yeah, but
Like
look at us. I mean, we're back at it, and we've had so many arguments about subjects that we just don't agree with each other, but we learn to respect each other because we I realized through my research how you're getting to your points and how I'm getting my points, and then when I realized that I'm relaying my points to you just like you're relaying my points to me, I'm like, well, what makes me better if I'm gonna be mad at what he gave me, and if I don't agree with it just because he found it or something, like I'm gonna study it. I'm gonna see what about what he shared, what makes him feel that way about what he shared, and that made me respect you more because whether I agreed with it or not, and a lot of them I didn't agree with still, it's still it's still something that built my respect more towards you and towards your research and towards the way that you thought about and there's not going to be two of me no matter how much I search to earth. There's nobody going to
you
get
don't want that. I don't. I've come to
I
that
don't want
conclusion.
that.
You
I'd
don't.
kill him.
You.
I'll kill him. I'd kill him.
That's like the whole thing. Kill Buddha if you find him. But so I want to say some things too. Like so with you, like I feel that I could go and talk to anyone about stuff, and I will now and have been because like this has been going on since for years, over 10 years, right? And if anyone ever came up to me and like I was saying today, like we're gonna get asked questions, like if we really try to push things, like because we're trying to do a documentary and we're trying to put out different information. And we tried to do this before, but I think that we have a lot better grasp on things because of how you've questioned me now. Like through years, and I'm sure I've done it to you now. Like like when other people come up and they're going to question me, like it's gonna pale in comparison to like the stuff because you lay down the hard questions and we would go round and round and round and round and round and round and round.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean you have to do that. Just like you said earlier, man. This is how you come to I wouldn't say I would say I would call it the truth, but it could be and it's really an opinion in the end of the day because you never know. But this is how you become to your truth. We'll call it that. Is by asking those hard questions. It's to find those hard questions. It's by caring to ask those hard questions, and that goes behind that's like the main to me. The hat is you have to care. If you do not care about a subject, you will not be devoted to really find the truth as you are of just hey, I just want to know what 2 plus 3. I'll Google it, whatever. Or it's if you really want to understand it. That's why like vaccine is a very big subject to me and very dear to me. It's not only because and that one I actually have personal experience with family, so it's not just something I decided to research and look up the truth and this and that. But that's something that's really really dear to me as well. And I'm sure it would be considered a taboo subject that we can discuss
Oh
sometime.
yeah, it's absolutely like it is definitely controversial.
Yeah, oh yeah, and because most people, will tell you you're dumb if you don't vaccinate, and that's it. That's what they've been told. That's what their doctor tells them. That's what the TV tells them. That's what the CDC tells them. Because if you don't do it, then you're dumb. And but then you have to think outside the box. Like, why does the CDC right now? Why does YouTube, Google, Facebook, all of them? You can find. This is what you got to think about. You can find anything you want, videos, anything on UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot,
Confirmation bias.
anything. But go look up vaccine stuff. Why is it filtered? Go look up 5G stuff. Why is it like you gotta start thinking outside the box? Like, why is the alien stuff not filtered if it's not real, or you know what I'm saying? But like the vaccine is filtered and 5G is filtered. Like, why would they care what people think about 5G? Unless there's a motive. So you got to like start thinking behind the box, outside the box on some of the stuff to really start digging into the truth. And that's one of the red flags. I mean, that's one of the red flags that got me, into 5G. I'm like, oh, why are they erasing these videos? Like, I mean, this is somebody's opinion. It's a free speech. Why do they care so much on limiting what people say about 5G and about vaccine? You know what I mean? I mean, they've literally stripped so many doctors of their licenses. I don't know if you know about the holistic doctors. There's like a dozen holistic doctors that went missing from spreading truth about vaccine. There's so much you find out about. Once you really start to dig in, it becomes scary. Like, you're like, shit, maybe I shouldn't be posting about this shit because I'm disappearing. But there's definitely a power that's trying to hide information, and it makes it so tough to find the truth or even try to prove. Right now, if I don't save all my stuff that I've saved in these years, there's no way I could talk to anybody and try to convince them that vaccine is actually bad for you, because there's nothing out there, man. They literally stripped the internet of everything. Dude, I have 157 studies that are done on vaccination that actually prove that it's bad for you, and that was stripped, and it keeps being uploaded in different places. But every time I have to keep searching for it, and I have to search because I have it saved on my desktop
You
on
better have
my
backups of
I
anything.
have to search for words within that document to be able to find that article, those studies again, because otherwise I can't find those studies because they keep being uploaded, because they keep being removed. And you're like, why is there such an effort to shut these studies? These are real studies. They're shutting them down. So, again, I'm not never gonna say like I know 100%, but I've formatted, I've formulated an opinion in my head that is my truth, and that's the way that I'm gonna go by living my life with that truth. But you have to care. It goes back to, like, what I was talking about earlier. You got to care enough about a subject to research it. I don't believe you can know enough about a subject if you don't care enough. If you are just half-assed about it, if you just go to church without reading the Bible, you're not to me at least, you're not a real Christian. You're just going there because you're scared and you just want to don't go to you don't want to go to hell. You want to go to heaven. You
Possibly.
want God to be on your side. It's more fear than anything, which
Right.
is
Maybe.
probably 90% of the religious people, 90% of the Christians are they fear it, and that's why they go to church. They don't want to go to hell. They have this image of hell and heaven, and they want to go to heaven, which I don't blame them. That's why I was going. Even though I was studying it, I was scared. I didn't want to go to hell. It's
Um,
hot
you,
down there,
you know,
dude.
I'm not trying to make fun, but it's just an interesting perspective. The Mormons, they believe that if you serve the proper life on this earth, you get your own planet. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, Muslims got it the best with 72 virgins, bro. I don't know how you get to. I don't know how you top that shit. I don't care about the planet, bro. I'm getting 72
I don't
girls.
know why people have this thing about virgins. Like to me, they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, bro. They're inexperienced.
Hey, here's a question. If we put it in a different context, do you want to go fly on a plane with a guy that it's his first time flying a plane? Here's another thing. Do you want to get surgery done by a guy that's his first time on doing surgery? So
All
why
right, bro,
would
I'm
you?
ready to do your surgery. It's my first time, bro, but don't I got you, man. I got you. Get in there.
Okay, so I got two things to say before we end this. First of all, someone asked. I'm not going to name names, but they said, what's this guy's credentials talking about you?
Credentials, as in what?
What's your credentials to? I guess it's so you're saying this stuff. So what are your credentials? I'm assuming they're looking for. Well, this guy's a doctor, or they're looking for credentials. They're looking for some sort of,
Yeah,
hey, this is a piece of paper that says that I've gone through this much education to
yeah.
validate my opinion.
Well, I
So
obviously I
what do you
cannot
say to
give that.
that? So that's a tough question because this is going to
That is,
happen when we're out here when we're putting ourselves out here and
yeah.
this type of
And no,
so
yeah,
what are your
I have no
credentials?
issues. You know, I'm an engineer. You know, obviously, I'm not a researcher. I'm not a professional researcher. I'm not a doctor. I'm not this and that. This is just a very, very sensitive subject that I care so much about. Religion, you know, even autism, even vaccines. There's a lot of these taboo stuff that people don't like to talk about, even politics. You know, that I've really it's my love, it's my passion, it's my love, and I really decided I want to research and find out as much and learn as much as I can. And you obviously can't learn all religions with just learning your own religion. You need to learn all of them, and that's what I did. I went on a 12-year almost, and it's really a lifetime. I'm still learning, you know, learning all different religions, reading the Bible, the Quran, everything you can think about, even doing what they're doing, whether it's meditations, you know, just all kinds of stuff, anything you can think about, you know. And so to me, it's the experience. It's not necessarily I went to school for it because, you know, I've been to school as an engineer. I didn't learn shit as an engineer in school. I didn't know shit when I got out of there. Everything I learned was hands down in the shops, through people with experience that have taught me and through me trying things and testing. I'm a new product development engineer. That means I research things, I test them, I try them out, and I do them, and I fail and I fail and I fail, and that's how I learn. And so to me,
I'm the same
my
way.
credential is I learned how to look for a solution and how to keep trying and trying and trying and learning that failing is okay. So even if I research something and I find out that, or I you know, to somebody it's wrong, or to somebody else, you know, this guy's like, oh, this stuff is stupid. I learned not to necessarily judge it, but based on that, I mean, Chris gave me so much stuff that I didn't agree with, and I thought it was, you know, satanic and evil and this and that. And then when I started to research about it, when I called myself started to research about it, I found out through my own experience at least that it's not as bad. It's just a different, you're looking at it from a different lens. That's all it is.
Lens, I love that.
That's
Yeah.
all that stuff is. And so I learned a lot. I've actually learned from a few people, you know, not necessarily classes, but there's some really good lectures out there, multiple part lectures of how to research things the right way, how to look for sources, how to look for the sources of the sources. I mean, you know, I've learned to really, when I find something and when it excites me too much, I learned to stop, look at the source, and look back at the source's source, and 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 try not to get excited too much. And what's funny about that, once I started to do that, I started to realize that 90% of the shit that I find is bullshit.
Right.
And so it's just methodologies that I've come up with through, because really when you're looking for things like this, there's not you can't go to school for it. You can't. Nobody's gonna go, oh, this is how you come up with what's the best religion that's out there. You know, there's no school out there that teaches it. This is actually an idea that Chris had about, you know, starting up a school that you can learn all these different religions, that you can formulate your own opinion based on what all these different religions do. So yeah, I mean, my credentials may not be something you're looking for, or anybody here that's looking for, but it's really experience. And to me, I would take that, to me at least. You know, obviously, it's to me. If somebody comes with me with experience of how to do something, I would take their experience over whatever school they went to, whatever PhD they went
Right.
to.
It's theory
I didn't
versus
learn anything in
practice.
engineering until I went out and I started to. I mean, the first question I had on my second day of work, the one guy goes, "Go get me a flathead screw." Dude, I didn't fuck know what you know, I'm sorry for my language. I didn't know what it was. I don't, what do you mean a flathead screw? You know, and I went over there. I'm like, they're all flat on top. I mean, some of them are rounded, but there's a few of them that are flat. Which one is flat? You know. So I came back with three screws, and I mean, there's not there's to me that was like my lowest of lows as an engineer. I came back to the guy, he's a senior engineer, and I showed him a few screws, and he goes, he's like, bro, you joking? He's like, you don't know what a flathead is?
Oh
I'm
my
like, no,
god.
man, they never told me what a flathead screw is. I mean, we didn't really use screws in college. I mean, so I mean, it's like we used like the machine screws, and that was it. That was only one type of screw that we, put a bunch of 2x4s together to build a little frame, and that was it. We were in a cheap department. So I mean, experience goes above and beyond. So to me,
That's a great
the 12
story.
years of experience that I've
That's
had
a great.
researching, learning, being open, learning about myself, not just about religion, but how to grow myself. I mean, I went from a religion to learning how do I improve myself based on what I've learned, and that in turn taught me how to respect others, how to respect other religions, and it came a full circle. So my credentials, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not anything that somebody might be looking forward to say, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about. But it's the deep research for 12 years now, and I'm sure people have, like me, there's a lot of people like me that have maybe 40, 50 years of experience in that, and those are people I look up to as well. But in 12 years, I've put probably too much time into this research, and most of my free time into this research, and that's what I have to say about that. So
So, and then I just got to say, I'll end it with this: is there's a old Chinese parable, and it's a little kid, and he goes to his teacher, and I guess there's two parts to this, and he goes to the master, the teacher, and he says, I want to know what the truth is, right? I want to learn. I want to know the truth. And he goes, how could you ever learn when you come with me and your cup's already full? You got to empty that
yeah.
cup out. And so there's that one point. Most people
Oh
are
yeah.
already
Yeah.
going around. They're already full with this
Yeah.
ideology or model of how the world works. Um, and then there's the other one, and I always think about this that there's a there is a little student, and he came to the master and he said, Master, I want to know truth. And so they walked into like a pond, right? And he's like, come here. This is how you'll know what truth is. And he took the kid and he dunked him and held him under the water, right? And he's just sitting there holding him under the water. And then the kid comes up and he goes, what the hell are you doing? Like you're drowning me. What, like, this is fucked up. He goes, when you desire the truth as much as you just desired the need to breathe and air, then you will be able to find it. And that is the whole thing with finding the truth out of anything. Until you have that much
Desire. Yep.
desire
Hunger.
to do it,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get knocked over because everything is stacked against you. You,
Yeah.
you are stacked against yourself because you have innate biases that you have
Yeah.
to discover and dismantle and understand how to perceive truth from this machine, from this perspective, and that's called the microcosm. And then you have the macrocosm and how you go and research and distinct fact from fiction. You have to learn that these are two different games you have to learn. You can learn this game and understand it, but then you have to learn out here. And until you fucking desire that as much as you desire air, you're not gonna find it.
Yeah,
You
no,
know.
100%, man, 100%. You have to have that hunger for it, man, that love for it, and the passion for it to really, and even if you do, towards that path of the truth, like even if you have to remember, no matter what conclusion you come up with, this is your truth. I've come up with my own thing, you've come up with your own thing, and everybody else who's gone through this path have come up with their own thing, and that's simple as that. But yeah, it's simple as your truth, and this is going to be your path. And think about this, man. What would I have to gain from me leaving my religion, okay, and finding something else that works for me, and embarrassing myself in front of all my friends and
You're the
family?
black sheep.
That what?
You're the black sheep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what would I gain other than misery? What would I gain? Why would I do this myself? You know what I'm saying? Everybody tells me,
It's
"Oh,
stacked
Musa, you're
against
a
you.
smart guy. You know how to do this. You know how to do this. You're good with money. You're good with this. This and that." I'm like, all right. Well, if you respect me that I'm a smart guy, would you think I'd be stupid enough to just leave my religion for no reason? You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, you have to stop and think and start realizing that, hey, if you honestly believe that I'm as smart as you think, what would cause me to leave it? No, I don't have hatred to it, but something caused me to look outside the box, look outside, step out a little bit, and try to view the religion as a whole instead of, hey, I'm a Christian and that's the tunnel. That's a pretty good tunnel right there, man. you know. But anyways, man, yeah, we should definitely start streaming, man, and maybe cut those out as in, we can get into every part of those in detail and discuss them as like a weekly or bi-weekly, even twice a week, maybe. Um, you
I could
know,
do a work night and then like a Friday or Saturday.
I'm down, man. I'm down. Let's do it, man.
All right, cool. All
All
right,
right,
man.
good talks, bro.
All right, yeah. Dude, it's always good talks.